What happens when your own mother decides you and your son aren't good enough for Christmas dinner, but she has no idea you own a $4.8 million lakefront estate? I'm Rebecca Hartwell, and this past November, my mother sent me a text message that shattered 38 years of pretending everything was fine. Christmas will be at Diane's this year, just her immediate family. We think it's best. 9 words that ended a lifetime of trying to be enough and started the most empowering holiday season of my life. Trust me, when my mother saw the photos of what she missed, the voicemails she left were nothing short of desperate. Before we continue, shout out your location in the comments. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. Our community is growing, and tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. My phone lit up at exactly 4:23 p.m. on a gray Thursday afternoon. I was in my downtown Seattle office on the 28th floor of the Columbia Tower, reviewing architectural plans for a new mixed-use development in Bellevue. The notification banner read, "Mom," and for a split second, I felt that old familiar flutter of hope. Maybe she was calling to ask about my son Tyler's science fair project. Maybe she wanted to know how my latest property acquisition was going. I opened the message. "Rebecca, your father and I have been talking. Christmas will be at Diane's house this year in Spokane. Just her immediate family. We think a smaller gathering would be more meaningful. Hope you understand. We'll catch up after the holidays." I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. Just Diane's family. My older sister, the pediatric surgeon who married another doctor, who lives in the perfect craftsman home with the perfect hedgerows and the perfect golden retriever named Biscuit. Diane, who never forgot to send birthday cards or missed a single family obligation. Diane, whose 3 daughters were honor students and volleyball champions, and everything my mother bragged about at her book club. Me? I'm a commercial real estate developer. I started with nothing but a business degree from Washington State University and a dream that everyone told me was too ambitious for a single mother. 10 years ago, I was working 80-hour weeks, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Renton, sharing a bedroom with my then 5-year-old son Tyler because I couldn't afford anything bigger. I ate boxed mac and cheese 4 nights a week so I could afford his preschool tuition. Last year, my development company completed a $40 million waterfront project that won the Seattle Times Real Estate Development of the Year award. But you wouldn't know it from how my mother still introduces me at family gatherings. "This is Rebecca. She works in real estate, does something with buildings." The truth is, this text message wasn't a surprise. It was just the final confirmation of something I'd known my entire life. I was never quite enough for my mother. And worse, my son Tyler wasn't enough either. At Diane's daughter's graduation party last May, I brought Tyler with me. He was wearing his robotics club shirt because he'd come straight from a competition where his team placed 2nd in the state. He was so excited to tell everyone about the autonomous robot they'd built. My mother took one look at him, wrinkled her nose, and said, "Rebecca, couldn't you have made him change? This is a formal event." Tyler's face fell. He was 15 years old, and I watched something break inside him. He didn't say another word the entire party, just sat in the corner on his phone while my mother showed everyone photos of Diane's daughters in their tennis whites. When I tried to mention Tyler's robotics achievement, my mother cut me off mid-sentence. "That's nice, dear. Diane, tell everyone about Natalie's acceptance to Princeton." But this Christmas exclusion was different. This wasn't just overlooking us. This was erasing us completely. I stared at that text message until my vision blurred. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I let myself feel angry. Not sad, not disappointed, furious. Because there was something my mother didn't know about me. Something I'd been keeping quiet for 3 years. I owned a custom-built 8,500 square foot estate on Lake Washington. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, a chef's kitchen with Italian marble countertops, a home theater, a temperature-controlled wine cellar, an infinity pool that seemed to spill right into the lake. 6 bedrooms, each with its own ensuite bathroom. A game room with vintage arcade machines that Tyler and I had collected together. And a dock with a 42-foot yacht named Second Chances. I'd bought it with the profits from my first major development deal. It was my sanctuary, the physical proof that I'd made it, that all those years of struggle had been worth it. But I'd never told my family about it. Why? Because I learned a long time ago that sharing my successes with them was like shouting into a void. They either didn't understand, didn't care, or found some way to diminish it. Real estate is so volatile, Rebecca. I hope you're being careful. Must be nice to have money to throw around while some of us are working real jobs. But now, staring at that exclusion text, I realized I had a better idea. I picked up my phone and called my cousin Jeremy on my father's side. Hey, Jer, quick question. Did you get invited to Christmas at my parents' place this year? Nope, he said immediately, and I could hear the bitterness in his voice. Your mom called my mom last week, said they're doing immediate family only this year. First time in 25 years we're not invited. My kids were really upset about it. My jaw clenched. It wasn't just me and Tyler. She'd cut out the entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, people who'd driven hours every year to celebrate together. Jeremy, I said slowly, how would you feel about a different kind of Christmas this year? What do you mean, everything decent is booked by now? I smiled for the first time in hours. I've got a place. Lakefront estate here in Seattle. Room for 40 people, and I'm not exaggerating. You interested? Dead silence on the other end. Then, Rebecca, are you messing with me right now? Dead serious. Bring your wife, bring the kids. I'm hosting Christmas for everyone who actually wants to spend it together. No judgment, no favorites, no one gets erased. His voice cracked slightly. I'm in. And Rebecca, thank you. By the end of that week, I had 22 RSVPs. My father's brother, Uncle George, and his family were driving up from Portland. Cousin Amanda was flying in from Boise with her husband and twin boys. Even my 79-year-old Aunt Lorraine, who hadn't traveled anywhere in 3 years since her hip surgery, said she wouldn't miss it for the world. For the first time in my adult life, people were genuinely excited to celebrate Christmas with me. Not out of obligation, not because they had to, because they wanted to. And my mother? She had no idea what was coming. This story took hours to research and craft. So, if you're enjoying it, a quick subscribe would truly make our day. Now, let's get back to it. The next 2 weeks became a blur of planning, but not the stressful kind. This was the kind of planning that filled me with purpose, the kind that made me wake up excited instead of dreading another day of feeling invisible. I sat down at my home office desk overlooking the lake, opened my laptop, and created a spreadsheet. Yes, I'm that person. But when you've built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing, you learn that details matter. This wasn't going to be some thrown-together potluck. This was going to be the Christmas my family and I deserved. First call was to Amanda Chen, no relation, just the best event coordinator in Seattle. We'd worked together on the grand opening of my Bellevue property, and she was a magician at turning visions into reality. Amanda, I need your help with something personal, I said when she picked up. Rebecca Hartwell asking for personal help? This must be good. What's the occasion? Christmas dinner, 40 people, my lakefront house, 3 weeks to plan. She whistled low. Most people book me 6 months out for something like that. I'll pay double your rate. And Amanda, I need this to be perfect. Not Instagram perfect, actually perfect. The kind of Christmas people remember for the rest of their lives. There was a pause, then her voice softened. Someone hurt you, didn't they? I hadn't expected that question, and it hit harder than it should have. My mother excluded me and my son from Christmas, told us we weren't invited to the family gathering. Say no more. I'm in. And Rebecca, we're going to make this so spectacular that she'll regret it for years. Next, I called Giuseppe's Catering, the company that had handled the mayor's inauguration dinner last year. I'd met the owner, Marco Ricci, at a charity gala, and we'd stayed in touch. Marco, I have a proposition for you. Christmas Eve dinner, traditional Italian feast, 40 people. Can you do it? For you, Ms. Hartwell?
Of course. What are you thinking? 7 courses? 8? Let's do 9. And Marco, I want your grandmother's recipes, the ones you only make for family. I want people to feel like they're sitting at a table in Tuscany. He laughed, warm and genuine. You want the real magic, eh? Okay, but only because I like you. My nonna's ossobuco, her handmade tortellini and brodo, the tiramisu that made my grandfather propose. This will be a meal people talk about forever. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Tyler came home from school that afternoon and found me surrounded by fabric swatches, menu printouts, and lighting catalogs spread across the dining room table. "Mom, what's all this?" he asked, dropping his backpack by the door. I looked up at my son, this brilliant, kind, creative 15-year-old who'd been told his whole life he wasn't quite enough for his grandmother's approval. "We're hosting Christmas, buddy. The whole extended family. Everyone, Grandma excluded." "Wait, seriously? Here?" "Right here. And Tyler, I need your help. I want you to be part of planning this." For the first time since that awful graduation party, I saw genuine excitement flash across his face. "Can we set up the game room? Like, really set it up with tournaments and prizes?" "Absolutely. What else? Could we do a hot chocolate bar with like 10 different toppings and maybe a s'mores station by the fireplace?" His words were tumbling out faster now. "Oh, and could we create a playlist with everyone's favorite Christmas songs? We could send out a survey."
I held up my hand, grinning. Yes to all of it. This is your Christmas too, Ty. Let's make it exactly what we want. He hugged me then, tight and sudden, and whispered, "Thanks for not just accepting what Grandma decided." That moment right there made everything worth it. Over the next week, my house transformed. Amanda brought in a team that decorated with the kind of tasteful elegance my mother always claimed to appreciate, but never actually achieved. Real pine garlands wrapped around the staircase railing, a 12-foot Douglas fir in the great room, decorated not with matching designer ornaments, but with a collection of meaningful ones, each representing someone who was coming. I had personalized ornaments made for every family attending. Uncle George's family got one with their RVs since they loved road trips. Cousin Amanda's twin boys got ones with their names and soccer balls. Aunt Lorraine got one with a vintage teacup because she collected them. The guest bedrooms were prepared with the kind of attention to detail that made people feel genuinely cared for. I'd asked everyone about their preferences. Cousin Jeremy's wife, Rachel, was always cold, so her room got extra heated blankets and fuzzy slippers in her size. Uncle George had mentioned he couldn't sleep without white noise, so I put a sound machine in his room. Aunt Lorraine needed accessibility features, so I had grab bars professionally installed in her bathroom. This wasn't about showing off. This was about showing up for people in a way my mother never had. 10 days before Christmas, I did something calculated. I posted a single photo on Instagram. Nothing flashy, nothing obvious. Just a shot of the view from my back deck at sunset. The lake reflecting pink and orange clouds, the Olympic Mountains in the distance, the edge of my infinity pool in the foreground. The caption was simple. "Grateful for this view and the family who'll share it soon. #home, #magic. I didn't tag anyone, didn't mention Christmas, didn't explain anything. Just let it sit there. Within an hour, I had comments from colleagues, former clients, and friends. "Stunning! Where is this? Rebecca, I didn't know you lived on the water." But for my immediate family, nothing. Not a like, not a comment, not a question. My mother didn't even follow me on Instagram. Hadn't for years. Said social media was vapid and self-absorbed. But my sister Diane followed me, and I knew she checked it religiously. 2 days later, Tyler showed me something on his phone. "Mom, look, Aunt Diane liked your post." I smiled. The seed was planted. She saw the photo, but had no context for it. No idea what it meant. "Good," I said simply. The next week was a masterclass in restraint. My mother called once, a perfunctory check-in call she did every couple of months. "Just touching base, Rebecca. How's work?" "Busy. Big project wrapping up. How are you?" "Oh, preparing for the holidays. Diane's hosting this year, as you know. We're keeping it small and simple." The way she said it, so casual, like she hadn't just excluded her daughter and grandson from a family tradition spanning decades. "Sounds nice," I said, my voice neutral. "I hope you have a wonderful time. You'll be all right on your own, you and Tyler?"
There it was, the faux concern, the implication that we'd be sitting alone in some sad apartment eating frozen dinners. We'll be more than all right, Mom. Actually, we're really looking forward to our plans. Oh, what plans? Just something we're putting together. I should go, though. Busy afternoon. Love you. I hung up before she could ask more questions. Tyler, who'd been listening from the kitchen, gave me a thumbs up. Smooth, Mom. She has no idea. Not yet, I agreed. But she will. The final piece fell into place 3 days before Christmas. Uncle George called me, his voice tight with emotion. Rebecca, I just got off the phone with your mother. She called to explain why we weren't invited this year. Said something about needing to focus on core family and that our presence might be overwhelming for Diane's new house. I'm sorry, Uncle George. Don't be sorry. Be proud. Because I told her we already had plans, that you were hosting us at your place. You should have heard the silence on that phone line. My heart started racing. What did she say? She asked what I meant by your place. I told her your house, your beautiful house that apparently none of us knew you had. She tried to laugh it off, said I must be confused. I said, nope, Rebecca's hosting Christmas at her lakefront estate and the entire family is coming. Then I hung up. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Actually laughed. Uncle George, you're a legend. She had it coming, kiddo. See you in 3 days. My phone stayed silent for exactly 47 minutes. Then it started. First, a text from my mother. George seems confused about your living situation. Can you call me when you have a moment? Then another. Rebecca, this is important. Please call. Then one from Diane. Mom is freaking out. What's going on? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, poured myself a glass of wine, and looked out at the lake. Tyler came and stood beside me. Are you nervous? No, I said honestly. For the first time in my life, I'm not nervous about what my mother thinks. I'm excited about what we've created.
Me too, Mom. Me too. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to find 14 missed calls and 23 text messages. But I didn't respond to any of them. Christmas was 2 days away, and I had a family to welcome. The family that chose me back. Christmas Eve morning arrived with fresh snow dusting the trees around my property. Something rare for Seattle, but absolutely perfect timing. I woke up at 6 a.m., not from an alarm, but from pure anticipation. Through my bedroom window, I could see the lake perfectly still, reflecting the gray-pink sky like polished glass. Tyler was already awake. I found him in the kitchen, surprisingly, making coffee. Couldn't sleep? I asked. Too excited, he admitted, grinning. Mom, people start arriving in like 6 hours. This is really happening. Marco's catering team arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, 3 vans full of equipment and ingredients. He walked through my kitchen like a general surveying a battlefield, nodding approvingly at the double ovens, the 6-burner gas range, and the marble prep surfaces. Perfetto, he murmured. Miss Hartwell, your kitchen, she is beautiful. We will make magic here today. By 10 a.m., the house smelled like heaven. Fresh bread baking, herbs simmering, garlic and olive oil creating that indescribable Italian aroma that makes your mouth water involuntarily. Tyler and I stayed out of the way, making final touches to the decorations. My phone had been buzzing all morning. I'd been ignoring it, but finally I glanced at the screen. 17 new messages, all from my mother, my father, and Diane. Mom, Rebecca, I don't understand what's happening. Please call me immediately. Mom, your father and I are very concerned. George made some claims that don't make sense. Dad, sweetheart, your mother is very upset. Whatever this is about, can we talk? Diane, are you seriously hosting Christmas to spite Mom? That's incredibly immature. I felt Tyler watching me read them. Are you going to answer? He asked. Not yet, I said, putting the phone face down on the counter. Today isn't about them. It's about everyone who's coming here. At 2 p.m., the first car pulled up the circular driveway. Uncle George, his wife Patricia, and their 3 kids piled out of their SUV. I watched through the window as they all stopped, staring up at the house. Patricia's hand went to her mouth.
Their teenage daughter Maya said something that made everyone laugh, and then Uncle George looked toward the front door, where Tyler and I were already heading out to greet them. Holy mother of... Uncle George stopped himself, glancing at his kids. Rebecca, this is your house? Welcome home, I said, hugging him. Come on, let me show you around. The next hour was like watching people discover Narnia. Each family arrived, had the same stunned reaction, and then dissolved into genuine joy once they stepped inside. Cousin Jeremy arrived with his wife Rachel and their 4 kids. The youngest, a 6-year-old named Sophie, immediately spotted the hot chocolate bar Tyler had set up and gasped so loud everyone turned to look. "Is this real life?" she whispered, eyes wide. "It's real," Tyler told her, crouching down to her level. "And I'm going to teach you how to make the best hot chocolate you've ever had. We've got 12 kinds of toppings." Rachel pulled me aside, tears in her eyes. "Rebecca, when Jeremy told me you were doing this, I didn't believe him. Our kids were so hurt when your mother said we weren't invited this year. They didn't understand why." "They don't need to understand her reasons," I said firmly. "They just need to know they're wanted here." Aunt Lorraine was the last to arrive, and I'd arranged for a car service to bring her since she couldn't drive long distances anymore. When she stepped out of the car and saw the house, she just stood there, leaning on her cane, shaking her head slowly. "Rebecca Ann Hartwell," she said, using my full name. "How long have you been sitting on the secret?" "3 years, Aunt Lorraine." "And you never said a word to any of us?" I helped her up the front steps, going slowly. Would it have mattered? Would they have listened? She stopped at the threshold, looked at me hard with those sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. "No, honey, they wouldn't have. But I'm listening now, and I'm so damn proud of you I could burst." By 5 p.m., all 42 people had arrived. Yes, 42. I'd underestimated by 2 because Cousin Amanda's college-age daughter had brought her boyfriend, and Uncle George's middle son had surprised everyone by flying home from Colorado for the holiday. The house was full of noise and laughter, and the kind of chaotic energy that only happens when family who genuinely enjoys each other get together. Kids were running between the game room and the hot chocolate bar. Adults were touring the house, wine glasses in hand, exclaiming over every detail. Tyler had organized a video game tournament in the game room, and I could hear the competitive shouting and laughter echoing through the halls. At one point, I peeked in to see Aunt Lorraine, all 79 years of her, learning how to play Mario Kart while a crowd of cousins cheered her on. "Take the shortcut, Aunt Lorraine! No, use the mushroom, the mushroom! I'm doing it! I'm winning! Oh, for heaven's sakes, who put a banana there?" The eruption of laughter made my chest tight with happiness.
At 6:30 p.m., Marco announced dinner was ready. We all gathered in the dining room, and I'd had the table extended to its full 16-foot length. It still wasn't enough for everyone, so we'd set up a second table perpendicular to it, creating an L shape that filled the entire room. The food came out in waves: antipasti platters with imported meats and cheeses, fresh focaccia still warm from the oven, then Marco's grandmother's famous tortellini in brado, each one handmade that afternoon. The osso buco, so tender it fell off the bone, roasted vegetables that had been harvested from local farms that morning. Uncle George stood up, glass raised. "I'd like to propose a toast to Rebecca, who reminded us what Christmas is supposed to feel like. And to family, not the family you're born with necessarily, but the family that chooses to show up." "To Rebecca!" everyone chorused, glasses clinking. I felt Tyler's hand slip into mine under the table and squeeze. After dinner, we moved to the great room, where the massive fireplace was roaring. Someone put on Christmas music. Kids sprawled on the floor, playing with new toys they'd found under the tree. Adults settled into couches and chairs, full and content, and talking in that easy way people do when they're comfortable. At 8:47 p.m., Tyler came running up to me, phone in hand, face lit up with mischief. "Mom, Cousin Amanda just posted the group photo on Instagram, the one we took by the fireplace." My heart skipped. "Already?" "Look at the caption." I took his phone and read, "When your family shows you what family is supposed to feel like. Best Christmas of my entire life.
Thank you, Rebecca Hartwell, for opening your beautiful home and your beautiful heart. Hashtag Christmas at the Hartwells. Hashtag family first. Hashtag blessed. She tagged me. She tagged the location as Lake Washington Waterfront Estate, and she'd included 12 photos. The house exterior lit up at night, the massive Christmas tree, the dining table loaded with food, the group shot of all 42 of us beaming. Within minutes, I watched the likes and comments roll in. This house is stunning! Amando, where is this? Rebecca Hartwell, you've been holding out on us. This is incredible. Wait, this is in Seattle? I need an invite next year. Then I saw it. 3 names that made my stomach flip. My mother had liked the post. My father had commented, "Beautiful home." Diane had sent a direct message to Amanda. I couldn't see what it said, but Amanda showed me her phone 2 minutes later. Diane's message, "Is that really Rebecca's house? Mom is losing her mind. She's been trying to call Rebecca all day. Do you know what's going on?" Amanda had replied, "Your sister is hosting the entire family for Christmas because your mom excluded her. And it's the most beautiful, generous thing I've ever seen anyone do. Maybe you should ask yourself why Rebecca never told you about this place." I handed the phone back to Amanda. "You didn't have to say that." "Yes, I did," Amanda said firmly. "Someone needed to." My phone, which I'd left on the kitchen counter, started buzzing so insistently that Tyler could hear it from the other room. "Mom, your phone is having a seizure." I walked over and looked at the screen. 23 notifications in the last 5 minutes. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, Diane. Text messages coming in rapid fire. "Mom, I saw the photos. We need to talk right now." "Mom, this is not how you handle family disagreements." "Please pick up the phone, Diane." "I can't believe you didn't tell us about this house. Mom is freaking out." "Mom, how could you do this to me, making me look foolish in front of the entire family?" That last message made something snap inside me. Making her look foolish? This had nothing to do with her. Uncle George appeared beside me, must have seen my face. "Everything okay?" I showed him the messages. He read them, then looked at me seriously. "You don't owe them a response tonight, Rebecca. Tonight is yours. Let them sit with it." He was right. I put the phone back down, face down this time. "Come on," Uncle George said, putting his arm around my shoulders. "Aunt Lorraine is about to tell the story about the time she accidentally went to church drunk, and you don't want to miss it." As we walked back to the great room, I could hear Aunt Lorraine already starting. "So I was there, absolutely convinced I'd arrived early, when really I'd missed the entire service." The eruption of laughter that followed drowned out any remaining buzz from my silenced phone. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one on the outside looking in. I was at the center of something beautiful that I'd created, and my mother's panic could wait until morning. Christmas morning arrived quietly. I woke up at 7 a.m. to find the house still peaceful, most guests still sleeping off the previous night's celebration. I made my way downstairs in my robe and found Tyler already sitting by the window overlooking the lake, watching the sunrise paint everything gold and pink. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he said softly. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." I sat beside him and we watched the light change together for a few minutes in comfortable silence. "Are you going to call Grandma today?" he finally asked.
I'd been thinking about that exact question since I woke up. My phone had 31 new notifications. I'd stopped counting after midnight when I finally went to bed. "Yes," I said, "but on my terms, not hers." By 9 a.m., the house was coming alive. The smell of coffee mixed with the cinnamon rolls Marco's team had prepared for breakfast. Families emerged from bedrooms, kids excited about the stockings I'd prepared for each of them, adults moving slowly and contentedly after last night's feast. I waited until 10:30 a.m., when I knew the chaos at Diane's house would be at its peak. Kids opening presents, wrapping paper everywhere, the kitchen a disaster from breakfast. Then I stepped out onto the back deck, where it was quiet, and called my mother. She answered before the first ring finished. "Rebecca." Her voice was tight, strained. "Finally." "Merry Christmas, Mom." Don't you Merry Christmas me. What is going on? I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. George said you have some kind of estate? Those photos Amanda posted, is that really where you live? I leaned against the railing, looking out at the lake. Yes, Mom, that's my home. I've owned it for 3 years. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. 3 years? She finally repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. You've owned a house like that for 3 years and never told us? I tried to tell you, Mom, multiple times. Do you remember 2 years ago at Easter when I mentioned I'd bought a new property? You cut me off to ask Diane about her kitchen renovation. Last Thanksgiving, when I said I'd been working with an interior designer, you said, "How nice," and then spent 20 minutes showing everyone pictures of Diane's daughters at tennis camp. That's not the same as telling us you bought a mansion. You're right, I said, my voice steady. It's not the same. Because a mansion isn't what matters. What matters is that for years, decades actually, you've made it clear that nothing I do is as important or as worthy of your attention as Diane and her perfect life. So I stopped trying to get your attention. Rebecca, that's not fair. We've always been proud of you. Have you? The question came out sharper than I intended. Tell me one time, Mom, one single time you bragged about me to your friends the way you brag about Diane. Another long silence. I talk about you, she said defensively. What do you say? That I work with buildings? That I'm doing something in real estate? Mom, last year, my project won a major award. I gave the keynote speech at a real estate development conference with 2,000 attendees. My company was featured in Forbes. Did you mention any of that to anyone? I don't remember. Of course you don't. But I bet you can tell me exactly where Diane's daughters are going to college and what their majors are. I heard her start crying then, soft and broken. Part of me, the daughter part that still remembered being small and wanting her mother's approval, wanted to take it all back. But the grown woman part, the part that had built a life despite never getting that approval, stayed quiet. Why didn't you tell us? About the house, about your success, about any of it? Because you never asked, Mom. You never asked about my life in a way that suggested you actually wanted to know. Every conversation was surface level. How's work? Fine. How's Tyler? Good. And then we'd move on to Diane's latest accomplishment. After a while, I learned that sharing good news with you was like throwing it into a void, so I stopped throwing. And this Christmas, hosting everyone, was that to punish me? No, I said, and I meant it. It was to celebrate with people who actually want to celebrate with Tyler and me. You made the choice to exclude us, Mom. You sent that text, just Diane's family, keeping it intimate. You cut out your daughter and your grandson from Christmas. What did you expect me to do? Sit home alone and accept it? I thought, your father and I thought it would be easier, simpler. Diane's house has 4 bedrooms. There was room. You made a choice about who was worth having there, and Tyler and I weren't on that list. Own it. More crying. Then my father's voice came on the line. He must have been listening the whole time. Rebecca, your mother is very upset. I know, Dad. This house you have, it's really that impressive? And there it was. Even now. Even in this moment, he couldn't quite believe it. Couldn't quite accept that I'd achieved something significant. Dad, the property is worth $4.8 million. I paid cash. I have 42 family members here right now who are having the time of their lives. Yes, it's impressive. But what's more impressive is that I built a company successful enough to afford it. And you've never once asked me how I did it. I didn't know you wanted to talk about it. I shouldn't have to want to talk about it. You're my father. You should want to know about my life, about Tyler's life, about what we're doing and what we're proud of and what we're struggling with. But you don't. You never have.
I heard muffled conversation on the other end, couldn't make out the words. Then Diane's voice, sharp and defensive. Rebecca, what the hell is going on? Mom is crying, Dad looks like someone died, and apparently you've been living some secret life none of us knew about. It wasn't secret, Diane. It was just not interesting enough for any of you to notice. That's not fair. You never said anything. I tried, constantly, but every conversation somehow became about you. Your career, your kids, your house, your life. When was the last time you asked me a question about my life that wasn't just polite small talk? She was quiet for a moment. I ask about you. Do you? Or do you ask, how are things? And then move on before I can actually answer. Diane, when's Tyler's birthday? What? Tyler, your nephew. When's his birthday? It's in the summer, right? It's September 14th. He turned 15 3 months ago. You didn't call. You didn't text. You sent a card 2 weeks late with a generic message. But I can tell you that Natalie's birthday is April 22nd, Sarah's is June 6th, and Emma's is November 30th. Because I remember. Because I show up. Because I try. Jesus, Rebecca, is that what this is about? You're mad about a birthday card? No, I said, feeling exhausted suddenly. I'm not mad about a birthday card. I'm tired, Diane. I'm tired of being the afterthought. I'm tired of Tyler being treated like he's less than your daughters. I'm tired of working twice as hard for half the recognition. So I stopped working for your recognition and started building a life that doesn't need it. By throwing some lavish party to embarrass Mom. By celebrating Christmas with people who actually value my presence. No one here was invited out of obligation. Everyone here wanted to come. Can you say the same about your Christmas dinner? That hit home. I heard it in her silence. Uncle George appeared at the sliding door, mouthed, "Everything okay?" I nodded and gave him a thumbs up. Look, I said into the phone, I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I'm also not going to apologize for creating something beautiful with people who appreciate it. You all made your choices. I made mine. So what now? Diane asked. We just pretend this didn't happen? No, we acknowledge what happened. You excluded us. We moved on. If you want to be part of our lives going forward, actually be part of our lives. Not just at holidays, not just when it's convenient. Actually show up. Actually ask questions. Actually care about the answers. My mother was back on the phone, voice steadier now. Can we visit? Your father and I, can we come see this house? See what you've built? I thought about that for a long moment. Yes, but not as parents coming to judge whether I've lived up to some standard. As guests in my home. And you have to actually listen when I talk about my life. Both of you. We can do that, my father said. And you have to apologize to Tyler. He heard you exclude him. He knows you chose Diane's family over him. That hurt him more than you know. Oh, God, Rebecca, I know you never meant to hurt him, but you did. And he deserves to hear you acknowledge that. We'll make it right, Dad said. We'll try to make it right.
Trying isn't enough anymore, Dad. Either do it or don't, but don't expect me to keep accepting half-hearted efforts while you give Diane everything. The call ended soon after that. No dramatic conclusions, no movie-perfect reconciliation, just raw honesty and the beginning of something that might eventually look like real communication. I stood on the deck for a few more minutes, letting the cold air clear my head. Then Tyler opened the door. "Mom, Uncle George says Aunt Lorraine is about to tell the story about the time she accidentally joined a cult. You're gonna want to hear this one." I followed my son back inside, back to the warmth and laughter and the family that had chosen to show up. Whatever happened with my mother and father and Diane could wait. Today was still Christmas, and it was still perfect. The week between Christmas and New Year's became something I hadn't expected. Instead of everyone rushing home the day after Christmas, people stayed. Uncle George and his family extended their visit by 3 days. Cousin Amanda changed her flight. Even Aunt Lorraine, who I'd worried about tiring out, seemed to get more energetic with each passing day. "I haven't felt this alive in years," she told me on December 28th, as we sat together watching the kids build a snowman by the lake. "You know what the difference is? I'm not performing. I'm not trying to be the perfect guest or say the right things. I'm just here, and that's enough." That conversation stuck with me because it perfectly captured what I'd been feeling my entire life. With my mother, with Diane, I was always performing, always trying to be enough, always falling short. Here, in my own space, with people who genuinely wanted to be here, I could just exist. Tyler and I spent New Year's Eve with just the two of us. Everyone else had finally headed home, promises to stay in touch more often, plans already being made for Easter at Uncle George's place in Portland.
"Mom," Tyler said as we watched the fireworks over the lake at midnight, "this was the best Christmas of my entire life." "Mine too, buddy." "Do you think Grandma will actually change?" I considered that question carefully. I think she'll try. Whether that's enough remains to be seen. My mother called on January 3rd. Her voice was different, tentative in a way I'd never heard before. "Rebecca, your father and I would like to visit. Next weekend, if you're available. Just us. No Diane, no agenda. We want to see your home and talk. Really talk." "Okay," I said. "Saturday through Monday. I'll prepare the guest room." "Should we bring anything?" "Just open minds and honest hearts." They arrived on a gray Saturday afternoon. I watched from the window as my father pulled their Mercedes into the driveway, and both of them sat there for a moment, staring at the house. My mother's hand went to her chest, and even from a distance, I could see her eyes were wide. Tyler stood beside me. "You ready for this, Mom?" "As ready as I'll ever be." When I opened the front door, my mother looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not her disappointing daughter, not the one who wasn't Diane. Just me, as I actually was. "Rebecca, I don't even have words." I showed them around, and with each room, I watched something shift in their expressions. The home office where I ran my business, the awards and articles framed on the walls, the architectural plans for my current projects spread across my desk, Tyler's room with his robotics trophies and science fair medals displayed proudly, the evidence of lives lived fully, successfully, meaningfully. In the great room, my father stopped in front of a photo wall I'd created, pictures of Tyler and me over the years, his first day of kindergarten, the two of us covered in paint after renovating my first property, him holding his first major robotics award, me giving that Forbes keynote speech, our life, documented and celebrated. "I missed all of this," my father said quietly. "I was there for some of these moments, but I missed them. I wasn't paying attention." We sat down for dinner that evening, just the four of us. Marco had left me with prepared meals, and I'd made his lasagna recipe served with a simple salad and good wine.
Tyler, my mother said, her voice shaking slightly, I owe you an apology, a real one. When I excluded you and your mother from Christmas, I hurt you. I made you feel like you weren't important to me, like you weren't wanted, and that was cruel. I'm so sorry. Tyler looked at her for a long moment. He was 15, old enough to understand the weight of what she was saying, old enough to decide whether to accept it. Grandma, it did hurt. A lot. Because it wasn't just Christmas, it's been my whole life. You compare me to Diane's daughters constantly. You dismiss the things I'm good at because they're not the things you value. You make me feel like I'm not good enough. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but to her credit, she didn't look away. You're right, and I don't have a good excuse for it. Your cousins, Diane's daughters, they fit into a box I understood. Traditional achievements, traditional paths. You and your mother, you've always colored outside the lines. And instead of celebrating that, I tried to push you into boxes that didn't fit. That was my failure, not yours, never yours. Do you actually believe that? Or are you just saying it because you saw the house and realized Mom is successful? The question hung in the air like a challenge. I was proud of him for asking it. My mother took a shaky breath. That's fair. And honest answer? Seeing this house, seeing the evidence of your mother's success, it was a wake-up call. It forced me to confront how wrong I've been. But Tyler, I've been thinking about this nonstop since Christmas. The house didn't change who you and your mother are. It just made me finally see what was there all along. Over the next 2 days, we talked more honestly than we ever had. My parents told me about their own childhoods, the pressures they had felt, the boxes they had been forced into. My father admitted he'd always been intimidated by my ambition, that he didn't know how to relate to a daughter who wanted more than the traditional path he understood. With Diane, I knew what to do. Husband, kids, stable career. I understood that. With you, every conversation felt like you were speaking a language I didn't know. So I defaulted to what was comfortable, which was Diane. That was weak of me. I should have learned your language instead of expecting you to speak mine. My mother opened up about her relationship with her own mother, who had apparently been critical and impossible to please. She swore she'd never be like her, but somewhere along the way she became exactly like her, always seeing what was wrong instead of what was right. Always holding everyone to impossible standards. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. You deserved a mother who celebrated you, not one who made you feel invisible. On Sunday afternoon, something unexpected happened. Diane called me. Is Mom there? She asked. Yes. Do you want to talk to her?
No, I want to talk to you. Can you step outside or something? I walked out to the back deck. Okay, I'm alone. I've been thinking about what you said, about Tyler's birthday, about how you remember my daughter's birthdays, but I don't remember his, about how I never ask real questions about your life. She paused. You were right, about all of it. Diane. No, let me finish. I've been the golden child our whole lives, and I liked it. I liked being the one Mom bragged about. I liked being the standard everyone else was measured against. But, Rebecca, I've been so lonely. My marriage is struggling. My oldest daughter barely talks to me. My career is stalling, and I've had no one to talk to about it because I had to maintain the image of perfection. I sat down heavily on one of the deck chairs. Why are you telling me this? Because seeing what you built, not just the house, but the relationships, the family gathering, the way Tyler looks at you with genuine love and respect, I realized you have what I've been pretending to have. And I've been so jealous of you for so long that I couldn't see it. Jealous? Of me? God, yes. You've always been brave, Rebecca. You left the traditional path. You built something from nothing. You raised Tyler alone and did an incredible job. You never needed anyone's approval to know your worth. I've spent my whole life seeking approval, and I still don't feel like I'm enough. Meanwhile, you stopped caring what we thought and became more than any of us. We talked for over an hour. Real conversation, the kind sisters should have been having all along. She told me about her marriage problems, her fears about her daughters, her own sense of feeling trapped in the perfect life she'd created. I told her about the loneliness of being excluded, the pain of watching Tyler be overlooked, the years of feeling invisible. "Can we try again?" she asked finally. Not as the golden child and the disappointment, just as sisters. I'd like that. But, Diane, it has to be real. I can't go back to performing for Mom's approval or accepting scraps of your attention. I know. I'm going to try. Really try. When my parents left on Monday morning, something had fundamentally shifted. My mother hugged me for a long time at the door. "Thank you for not giving up on us, Mom." "I didn't do this to bring you back, Mom. I did it to save myself and Tyler." I know. That's what makes it so powerful. You chose yourself, and in doing that, you showed us what we were missing. 3 weeks later, I got a text from Tyler that made me smile. He was at my parents' house for Sunday dinner, something we'd cautiously agreed to try. "Mom, Grandma just spent 20 minutes telling her friend about my robotics team. She knew all the details. She's been paying attention." Small steps, but they were steps in the right direction. In February, Uncle George hosted his first family gathering. 15 people showed up at his place in Portland for a Super Bowl party. My mother and father came, so did Diane and her family. It was awkward at times, but we were all trying. The most profound moment came in March when I got a call from my cousin Jeremy's daughter, Sophie, the 6-year-old who'd been so enchanted by the hot chocolate bar. "Aunt Rebecca?" her small voice said. "My daddy says you had to be really brave at Christmas. What does that mean?" I thought about how to answer that. It means I chose to celebrate with people who made me feel loved, even though it was scary to do something different from what was expected. "Oh, like when I wore my superhero costume to school, even though the other girls said it was weird?" Exactly like that, Sophie. Did it work? Are you happy you were brave? I looked around my home office, at the view of the lake, at the family photos on my wall, at the life I'd built on my own terms. Yes, sweetheart, I'm very happy I was brave. Good. I'm gonna keep being brave too.
Is there a table in your life where you're still waiting for validation? A relationship where you're constantly proving your worth instead of having it recognized? A situation where you're playing small to make others comfortable? Maybe it's time to stop waiting. Maybe it's time to build something better. Something that celebrates who you actually are instead of who others think you should be. You don't need permission to live your best life. You don't need approval to take up space. You just need the courage to choose yourself, even when it's scary, even when it disappoints people, even when it means walking away from tables where you've been sitting your whole life. Build your own table, one where everyone who sits there knows, without question, that they belong. I'm Rebecca Hartwell, and this is my story. If it resonated with you, if it made you think about your own relationships and the choices you're making, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between fitting in and standing up for yourself? How did it turn out? If this story struck a chord with you, please hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who might need to hear it. And if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss stories about choosing authenticity over approval, about building your own path instead of following someone else's map. Until next time, remember, the most powerful table you'll ever sit at is the one you build yourself. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Got 2 more amazing stories lined up for you. If you dug this one, you're going to love what's next. Go ahead and click.